A GMA exclusive, our interview with the former presidential candidate and current Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who says he is trying to prevent an economic catastrophe caused by crumbling infrastructure. Our transportation correspondent, Gio Benitez, spoke to Buttigieg, and he's here now with much more on this. Gio, good morning to you.
Hey, Dan, good morning. The secretary is going around the country pushing for that massive infrastructure plan, and it was on one of those trips where we met him for this one-on-one interview. This is one of America's busiest rivers in Pittsburgh, and we're on it to meet exclusively with Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. He's here to see the aging river systems that freight workers rely on. And if one of these systems fails, what could happen here?
The impact could be catastrophic on the local economy. So the impact on jobs, the impact on economic well-being, not to mention just things like the impact on traffic, could be enormous.
Pennsylvania ranks second in the country for structurally deficient bridges. Look closely at this one. There's netting to catch any falling pieces. At another bridge nearby, chunks were falling on a playground.
These bridges, for example, unlocked economic opportunity over the course of the last century, but they're the same bridges. They're 100 years old, and we're relying on infrastructure from the last century.
The secretary is pitching the president's $2.3 trillion infrastructure plan. Republicans have criticized it for being too broad, pushing back against large expenses like the $400 billion to expand elderly care. Will the administration budge if it has to, if, certain projects are not considered classic infrastructure?
Well, look, this is a negotiation, and of course we want to hear other ideas, but what's not an option is to do nothing.
One of the questions I always hear is, how do you pay for this?
Yeah.
And how do you pay for this?
So one really important thing to understand about this bill is that it's fully paid for. The president's vision doesn't add to the deficit. All you've got to do is ask corporations to pay their fair share. Set a tax rate that's not high, but lower than it's been for most of my lifetime, but enough to get the job done. As
Congress debates what should be in that bill, we ask Secretary Buttigieg about the newest and fastest form of transportation for civilians, space travel. Just this week, the Jeff Bezos company, Blue Origin, announced it would be the first to launch a civilian from U.S. soil in July.
The 2020s may prove to be an extraordinary decade for space tourism, and I think it's of interest not just for the lucky few who right now can afford to be among the first to do it, but because of the jobs it can create and the industries that it can support. Now, for us as a department, our main concern is safety. We just want to make sure that these things are safe for those who are directly involved and communities around where there's a launch or a landing or a test.
You're a pretty daring guy, though. Would you be willing to go up there if given the opportunity?
I do in a heartbeat, but I don't think it's quite compatible with our family budget at the moment.
It's just a little much. Yeah, it is a little bit pricey right now. Meanwhile, the secretary says that he and the president will keep meeting with Democrats and Republicans in Congress to help find common ground.
Gio, let me go back to the issue of space for a second. Speaking of space, there's this 10-story tall Chinese rocket that we've all been hearing about. It's set to crash somewhere on the planet this weekend. What's the latest you're hearing on this?
Well, Dan, you know what? The U.S. Space Force estimates that it could really re-enter the atmosphere anytime between 5 p.m. Eastern tonight and 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. It is a huge window of time, and where it lands is anyone's guess because they won't know exactly where until a few hours before. It's a scary situation, even.
In other words, we have no idea what we're up against here. Gio, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.